17-year-old Nathan Pierce hadn't slept in a real bed for 11 months. The underpass on Franklin Street had become his bedroom, a cardboard box his mattress, and the constant rumble of traffic overhead his lullaby. His clothes were torn and filthy, his face gaunt from malnutrition, his eyes hollowed by the kind of exhaustion that comes from living in survival mode every single day. He was invisible to most people, just another homeless kid that society had learned to look past, to step around, to pretend didn't exist. But on a scorching August afternoon in downtown Phoenix, Arizona, Nathan would do something that no one expected. Something that would set in motion a chain of events so extraordinary that it would change not just his life, but the lives of hundreds of people in ways no one could have predicted. Because sometimes the people with the least to give are the ones who give the most. Before we dive into Nathan's incredible story, we want to know, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in the power of kindness, hit that like button. This story is just getting started, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Nathan had been on the streets since he was 16. His mother had overdosed on fentanyl-laced heroin when he was 15, leaving him in the care of his stepfather, a man named Rick who had never wanted Nathan in the first place. Rick had tolerated Nathan when his mother was alive, but the moment she was gone, so was Nathan's place in that house. 3 months after the funeral, Rick simply told Nathan to leave. No warning, no discussion, just pack your shit and get out. Nathan had tried. He really had. He'd gone to his school counselor, who connected him with Child Protective Services. But at 16, he was caught in a terrible gap in the system. Too old for most foster placements, too young to access adult services. The group home they placed him in was overcrowded and violent. Kids stole from each other, fights broke out daily, and the staff seemed overwhelmed and apathetic. After 2 weeks, Nathan packed his few belongings and left in the middle of the night. The streets were hard, but at least they were honest. Nobody pretended to care when they didn't. Nobody made promises they wouldn't keep. Nathan learned quickly where to find food, where to sleep safely, which shelters to trust and which to avoid, how to stay invisible when you needed to, and how to blend in when that served you better. He'd found a spot under the Franklin Street overpass that was relatively protected. It wasn't perfect, it was hot as hell in the Arizona summer, freezing in the winter, and the noise never stopped, but it was his. He'd created a small camp there with things he'd found: a tarp for shade, a sleeping bag someone had thrown away that still worked, a backpack that held everything he owned in the world. Nathan survived by doing odd jobs when he could find them. He'd stand outside Home Depot hoping to get picked up for day labor. He'd help people carry groceries for tips. He'd collect cans and bottles for recycling money. On good days, he made enough for a meal. On bad days, he went hungry. It wasn't a life anyone would choose, but it was survival, and Nathan had gotten good at surviving. On this particular Tuesday afternoon, Nathan had been walking through downtown Phoenix looking for opportunities. The heat was brutal, 107 degrees according to the bank sign he'd passed, and even the tourists were scarce, hiding in air-conditioned shops and restaurants. Nathan's throat was dry, his lips cracked, and he was debating whether to spend the $3 in his pocket on water or save them for dinner later. That's when he saw her. The woman stood at the corner of 5th Avenue and Washington Street, one of the busiest intersections in downtown Phoenix. She was maybe in her early 40s, with long dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing jeans and a simple black t-shirt. But what caught Nathan's attention wasn't her appearance. It was the white cane in her hand, the dark sunglasses covering her eyes, and the way she stood perfectly still at the curb, her head tilted slightly, as if listening intently to the world around her. She was blind, and she was trying to cross one of the most dangerous intersections in the city during rush hour traffic. Nathan watched as the woman took a tentative step forward, her cane sweeping in front of her. Cars whizzed by at 40 miles per hour, their drivers more focused on beating the next red light than watching for pedestrians. The crossing signal had turned green, but the woman couldn't see it. She was clearly trying to gauge when it was safe to cross by listening to the traffic patterns, but the noise was chaotic: engines revving, horns honking, music blasting from open windows. She took another step forward, and Nathan's heart jumped into his throat. A pickup truck was coming fast in the right turn lane, the driver looking left for a gap in traffic, not watching for pedestrians. The woman was about to step directly into his path. Nathan didn't think. He just moved. He sprinted across the sidewalk, his worn sneakers slapping against the hot concrete. "Ma'am," he shouted, but his voice was lost in the traffic noise. He reached her just as she stepped off the curb, his hand grabbing her arm, not roughly, but firmly enough to stop her momentum. The woman gasped, jerking back in surprise and fear. Her cane came up defensively. "Who's there? Let go of me." I'm sorry," Nathan said quickly, immediately releasing her arm and stepping back. "You were about to walk into traffic. There's a truck." He wasn't going to stop. "I didn't mean to scare you. I just didn't want you to get hit." The woman's defensive posture softened slightly, but her grip on the cane remained tight. "Who are you?" "My name's Nathan. I was just walking by, and I saw you trying to cross. This intersection is really dangerous. The drivers here don't pay attention." The woman took a slow breath, processing this information. Behind her sunglasses, Nathan couldn't see her eyes, but he could see the tension in her jaw, the way her free hand was clenched. She was scared, and he'd made it worse by grabbing her. "I'm sorry I touched you without asking," Nathan said, genuine remorse in his voice. "That was wrong. I just panicked. But ma'am, this crossing is really bad. Would you let me help you get across safely?" The woman was quiet for a moment, her head tilted in that listening posture again. Nathan wondered if she was trying to assess whether he was a threat. He didn't blame her. A strange man grabbing you on a street corner. She had every right to be wary. "What's your name?" she asked finally. "Nathan. Nathan Pierce." "How old are you, Nathan?" 17. "You sound young. And you sound sincere." She paused. "My name is Rebecca. Rebecca Garrett. And yes, I would appreciate help crossing. I'm not from this area. I usually don't navigate downtown alone, but my ride fell through, and I needed to get to the courthouse for a meeting. I thought I could manage, but this intersection is more chaotic than I expected." "It's really bad," Nathan agreed. "Even people who can see have trouble with it." "Where are you trying to go?" "The federal courthouse. It should be about 2 blocks east of here." "I know where that is. I can get you there safely if you'd like." Rebecca hesitated again, and Nathan understood. He was a stranger asking to walk with her through downtown Phoenix. For all she knew, he could be leading her somewhere dangerous. But she was also clearly stuck, unable to safely navigate on her own. "Okay," she said finally. "But I need you to understand something, Nathan. I'm going to hold your arm. That's how I prefer to be guided. You walk at a normal pace, and I'll follow your movements. You need to tell me about obstacles before we reach them. Steps, curbs, things like that. Can you do that?" "Yes, ma'am. Absolutely." Rebecca extended her free hand, and Nathan carefully offered his arm. She placed her hand just above his elbow, her grip light but present. "Okay, I'm ready." Nathan took a breath and assessed the intersection. The light was red now, traffic flowing perpendicular to them. "We're waiting for the walk signal. It's red right now. When it turns green, I'll tell you, and we'll cross together. The street is about 4 lanes wide. I'll let you know when we reach the median, okay?" "Okay." They waited. Nathan could feel Rebecca's hand on his arm, could sense her trust in him. It was strange. He'd spent almost a year being invisible, being someone people actively avoided. Nobody touched him anymore unless it was to push him away. But here was this woman, blind and vulnerable, putting her safety in his hands. The light changed. "It's green," Nathan said. "We're going to step off the curb now, down about 6 inches. Ready?" "Ready." They crossed together, Nathan moving at a steady pace, not too fast, constantly aware of Rebecca's presence beside him. He watched the traffic like a hawk, ready to stop or speed up if any driver did something unpredictable. They reached the median safely. "We're at the median," Nathan reported, waiting for the next light. "You're doing great. You're a good guide," Rebecca said, and Nathan felt something warm bloom in his chest. A compliment. When was the last time someone had complimented him? They crossed the second half of the intersection without incident and reached the far sidewalk. Nathan guided Rebecca up over the curb and stopped. "We're across," he said. Safe on the sidewalk. The courthouse is this way, about a block and a half straight ahead. Would you mind walking me there? Rebecca asked. I hate to impose, but you're already helping, and I'd feel safer with a guide I trust rather than trying to find someone else. I don't mind at all, Nathan said honestly. He had nowhere else to be, nothing else to do. For the first time in months, he felt useful, needed. It was a good feeling. They walked together down Fifth Avenue, past shops and restaurants, past business people in suits checking their phones, past tourists taking photos. Nathan narrated as they went, the way Rebecca had taught him, warning about the uneven sidewalk ahead, mentioning the table and chairs outside the cafe they were passing, describing the construction barriers they needed to navigate around. Rebecca walked with confidence now, her cane still sweeping, but more as a backup than a primary navigation tool. She clearly trusted Nathan's guidance, and he was determined not to let her down. So what brings you downtown on a Tuesday afternoon, Nathan? Rebecca asked as they walked. Shouldn't you be in school? Nathan's stomach tightened. He'd known the question would come eventually. He could lie. He'd gotten good at lying over the past year. But something about Rebecca made him want to be honest. I'm not in school right now, he said carefully. I've been taking some time off. By choice. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then, quietly, not exactly. Rebecca didn't press, and Nathan was grateful. They walked in silence for half a block, and Nathan thought maybe that would be the end of it. But then Rebecca spoke again, her voice gentle. You're homeless, aren't you? Nathan's steps faltered. How did you? Your clothes, Rebecca said simply. When you grabbed my arm at the intersection, I could feel the fabric. It's rough, worn thin, the kind of wear that comes from sleeping in clothes, not just wearing them. And your smell. Please don't be offended, but you smell like someone who hasn't had regular access to showers. I know that smell. I used to work at a homeless shelter before my vision got too bad. I know the signs. Nathan felt his face burn with shame. He'd tried so hard to stay clean, to not look as desperate as he felt. But of course, he couldn't hide it from someone whose other senses were heightened. I'm sorry, he said, though he wasn't sure what he was apologizing for. Don't be sorry, Rebecca said firmly. You have nothing to apologize for. Nathan, you're homeless, probably hungry, definitely tired, and you still stopped to help me. Do you know how rare that is? Most people would have walked right past. They'd have told themselves it wasn't their problem, that I'd figure it out. But you didn't. You put yourself at risk running into traffic to keep me safe. That says everything about your character. Nathan felt tears prick his eyes. He blinked them back hard. He couldn't remember the last time someone had said something kind about him, had seen him as anything other than a problem to be avoided. Thank you, he managed. They reached the courthouse steps. This is it, Nathan said, stopping. The federal courthouse. The main entrance is straight ahead, about 20 steps. Then there's a ramp on the right side that goes up to the doors. Rebecca didn't immediately move toward the building. Instead, she turned to face Nathan, still holding his arm. Nathan, I need to ask you something. Do you have anywhere to stay tonight? Anywhere safe. I've got a spot, Nathan said, not wanting to worry her. I'll be okay. That's not what I asked. Is it safe? Nathan didn't answer, and his silence was answer enough. Rebecca reached into her pocket and pulled out a wallet. She opened it and carefully felt the bills inside, her fingers trained to distinguish denominations by feel. She pulled out what Nathan could see were two $20 bills. I want you to take this, she said, holding the money out toward him. Get yourself a real meal. Maybe a night in a cheap motel where you can shower and sleep safely. Will you do that? Nathan stared at the money. $40. That was more than he'd held in his hands at one time in months. His pride warred with his desperation. He should say no. He'd helped her because it was the right thing to do, not for money. But God, he was so tired, so hungry. The thought of a shower, a bed, even just for one night. I can't take your money, Nathan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, you can. You saved my life today, Nathan. I'm not exaggerating. If you hadn't stopped me, I would have walked into that truck. This is the least I can do. Please, take it. Slowly, Nathan reached out and accepted the bills. His hands were shaking. Thank you, he whispered. You have no idea what this means. Rebecca smiled, and it transformed her face. I think I do. Now, I need to get to my meeting, and you need to take care of yourself. But Nathan, before you go, can you give me your phone number? I'd like to check in on you. Make sure you're okay. Nathan's face fell. I don't have a phone. Oh, right. Of course. Rebecca thought for a moment. Okay, let me give you mine then. She pulled a business card from her wallet and handed it to him. Nathan took it, looking at the embossed text. Rebecca Garrett, Victims Advocate, Maricopa County Attorney's Office. You're a victims advocate? Nathan asked, surprised. I am. I help people who've been through trauma navigate the legal system. I used to be an attorney myself, but after I lost my vision, I transitioned to advocacy work. It's important work. She paused. Nathan, that card has my office number and my cell number. If you ever need help, and I mean any kind of help, you call me. Okay, promise me. I promise, Nathan said, carefully tucking the card into his pocket like it was made of gold. Good. Now go get that meal. Take care of yourself. Rebecca turned and walked confidently toward the courthouse, her cane sweeping, heading for the ramp Nathan had described. He watched until she disappeared through the doors, then looked down at the money in his hand. $40. A fortune. Nathan walked to the nearest convenience store and bought water, a sandwich, fruit, and chips. He ate sitting on a bench in the shade, savoring every bite. When he was done, he walked to a cheap motel on the east side of downtown, the kind that rented rooms by the hour but would also take cash for a night, no questions asked. The room was small and dingy, with stained carpet and a bathroom that had seen better days. But it had a bed with sheets, a lock on the door, and a shower with hot water. Nathan stood under that shower for 20 minutes, scrubbing away weeks of grime, watching the water run brown, then finally clear. He washed his clothes in the sink with the tiny bar of soap the motel provided, then hung them to dry on the shower curtain rod. He lay down on the bed wearing just his underwear, his body sinking into the mattress, and for the first time in nearly a year, he felt safe. The door was locked. He was clean. His stomach was full. And tomorrow, when he woke up, he'd have a few dollars left over. But more than any of that, he had Rebecca's card in his pocket, and the memory of someone seeing him, really seeing him, as a person worth caring about. Nathan fell asleep with tears on his face, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of something he'd almost forgotten: hope. What Nathan didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that Rebecca Garrett wasn't just anyone. She was married to a man named Marcus Garrett, the president of the Desert Riders Motorcycle Club, one of the most respected and feared motorcycle clubs in Arizona. And when Rebecca got home that evening and told Marcus about the homeless teenager who had saved her life and guided her safely through downtown, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Because in the world of motorcycle clubs, there's a code. You protect your own, you honor debts, and you never forget someone who helps your family. The next morning, Nathan woke to sunlight streaming through the thin motel curtains. For a moment, he was disoriented, forgetting where he was. Then memory flooded back: Rebecca, the money, the shower, the bed. He sat up slowly, his body aching less than it had in months after actually sleeping on a real mattress. His clothes were dry, though wrinkled. He dressed quickly, checked out of the motel, and counted his remaining money. $12 left. Not enough for another night, but enough for food for a few days if he was careful. Nathan spent the day doing what he always did: looking for work, looking for opportunities, trying to stay cool in the brutal August heat. But something was different. He kept touching his pocket where Rebecca's card was tucked safely away. He kept thinking about what she'd said. You have nothing to apologize for. That says everything about your character. Nobody had said things like that to him in so long. His mother had loved him, he knew that, but she'd been too consumed by her addiction to tell him. And everyone since had either ignored him or treated him like trash. Rebecca had treated him like a person, like someone who mattered. That evening, Nathan was back at his spot under the Franklin Street overpass when he heard motorcycles. Lots of motorcycles. The sound grew louder until it was almost deafening, and then they appeared, a line of bikes coming down the street, maybe 15 or 20 of them, their chrome gleaming in the late afternoon sun. Nathan scrambled to his feet, ready to grab his stuff and run if he needed to. Bikers didn't usually come to this area, and when they did, it sometimes meant trouble for people like him. He'd learned to make himself scarce when certain groups rolled through. But these bikes didn't keep going. They slowed down, and then they stopped, right at the entrance to the underpass where Nathan's small camp was set up. Nathan's heart hammered in his chest. He looked around for an escape route, but the riders were already dismounting, already moving toward him. There were men and women, all wearing leather vests with patches that read Desert Riders MC, along with other insignia Nathan didn't understand. The man in front was tall and broad-shouldered, with a thick beard going gray and arms covered in intricate tattoos. His vest said President across the back. He walked with the kind of confidence that came from never having to prove himself. Everyone already knew he was in charge. He stopped about 10 feet from Nathan, and the other riders fanned out behind him, not threateningly, but definitely making it clear Nathan wasn't going anywhere. "You Nathan Pierce?" the man asked, his voice deep and gravelly. Nathan's mouth went dry. How did this man know his name? What did he want? "Why, yes, sir," Nathan stammered. "I'm Nathan." The man studied him for a long moment, his eyes taking in Nathan's torn clothes, his thin frame, the makeshift camp behind him. Then his expression softened slightly. "My name is Marcus Garrett. I believe you met my wife yesterday. Rebecca." Nathan's eyes went wide. Was Rebecca married to this man? This biker, who looked like he could break Nathan in half without trying. "Ah, yes, sir. I helped her cross the street. Is she okay? Did something happen?" Marcus's stern expression cracked into something that might have been a smile. "She's fine. Better than fine, thanks to you. She told me what you did. How do you stop her from walking into traffic? How you guided her all the way to the courthouse, even though you had nothing to gain from it. How you were kind and respectful and made sure she was safe." Nathan didn't know what to say. He just stood there, waiting for whatever was coming next. Marcus took a step closer. "Rebecca is the most important person in my world. She's my wife, my partner, my everything. 5 years ago, she was in a car accident. A drunk driver ran a red light and T-boned her car. She survived, but she lost her vision. It's been hard for her, learning to navigate the world differently. She's independent, stubborn, and refuses to let her blindness define her. But the world isn't always kind to people with disabilities. People ignore her, push past her, treat her like she's invisible." Nathan understood that feeling more than Marcus probably knew. "But you didn't," Marcus continued. "You saw someone who needed help, and you helped. You put yourself at risk running into traffic. You gave up your time to make sure she was safe. And when she offered you money, you were reluctant to take it. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." Marcus gestured to the riders behind him. "These are my brothers and sisters, the Desert Riders. We're a motorcycle club, and we take care of our own. But we also believe in honoring debts. You helped Rebecca. That means you helped me. And I don't forget debts." One of the riders, a woman with short red hair and kind eyes, stepped forward. She was carrying several large bags. "We brought you some things," she said, her voice warm. "Food, water, clothes, toiletries. Basic stuff, but hopefully helpful." Another rider, a younger guy with a sleeve of tattoos and a friendly smile, held up a smartphone. "This is for you. It's prepaid, has 6 months of service already loaded. Our numbers are programmed in. You need anything, you call." Nathan stared at the items being offered, completely overwhelmed. I can't accept all this. I just helped someone cross the street." It's nothing," Marcus interrupted. "In our world, helping someone's family is sacred. You protected Rebecca when you had no obligation to do so. That matters. Now let us return the favor. What do you think Nathan should do? Would you accept help from strangers you just met? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you." The riders unpacked the bags they'd brought. Nathan watched in disbelief as the pile of supplies grew. There were canned goods, bottles of water, energy bars, and fresh fruit. There were t-shirts, jeans, socks, and underwear. All new, all in approximately his size. There were toiletries, soap, shampoo, toothbrush, toothpaste, and deodorant. There was a thick blanket and a waterproof tarp. There was a first aid kit and a flashlight. But Marcus wasn't done. "This is just immediate help," he said. "But Nathan, I want to offer you something more. A job. Nathan's head snapped up. A job. I own a motorcycle repair shop on the west side. Garrett's Custom Bikes. We do repairs, customization, and restoration. I need someone to help with basic stuff, cleaning, organizing, running parts, and assisting the mechanics. It's not glamorous work, but it's honest pay. $20 an hour to start. If you prove yourself, that goes up. $20 an hour. Nathan did the math in his head. Even part-time, even just 20 hours a week, that would be $400. More money than he'd seen in a year. Why? Nathan asked, his voice breaking. Why would you do all this for me? Marcus crouched down so he was at eye level with Nathan. Because someone did it for me once. When I was 22, fresh out of the Marines, I was lost. Angry. Couldn't find my place in the world. A man named Carlos, the founder of the Desert Riders, gave me a job at his shop. Gave me purpose. Gave me a family. He saved my life, Nathan. And before he died, he told me to pay it forward. To look for people who needed a chance and give them one. So that's what I'm doing. I'm giving you a chance. Nathan felt tears spilling down his cheeks. He didn't try to hide them. What if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough? Then you'll learn. We all mess up. But I don't think you will. Rebecca told me how focused you were, how careful, how you listened to her instructions and followed them perfectly. Those are skills that transfer. You show up, you work hard, you learn, and you'll do fine. Marcus stood and extended his hand. So what do you say? You want a job? Nathan looked at the outstretched hand. This was real. This was happening. After nearly a year of being invisible, of being nothing, someone was offering him a way out. He took Marcus's hand and shook it firmly. Yes, sir. Thank you. I won't let you down. Marcus's grip was strong, his handshake the kind that sealed deals and made promises. I know you won't. You start on Monday morning. 8 a.m. shops at 4527 West McDowell Road. Don't be late. I'll be there early, Nathan promised. The red-headed woman smiled and handed Nathan a card. I'm Diane, by the way. Marcus's second-in-command. That card has the shop address and Marcus's cell number. You run into any problems between now and Monday, call. Clear. Clear. Thank you. The riders began mounting their bikes, their mission apparently complete. But before Marcus left, he turned back to Nathan one more time. One more thing. You're under the protection of the Desert Riders now. If anyone gives you trouble, if anyone tries to hurt you or move you from your spot here, you tell them who you're connected with. And if they don't listen, you call us. We take care of our own, and you're one of ours now. Understand? Nathan nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. The motorcycles roared to life one by one, a symphony of engines that echoed under the overpass. Marcus gave Nathan a final nod, then led the formation back out onto the street. Nathan watched until they disappeared from view, the sound of their engines fading into the distance. Then he looked at the pile of supplies they'd left behind, at the phone in his hand, at Diane's card with the shop address. He sank onto his cardboard mat and let himself cry, really cry, for the first time since his mother died. But these weren't tears of grief or despair. These were tears of relief, of hope, of the overwhelming feeling of being seen and valued after so long being invisible. He had a job. He had a phone. He had people who cared whether he lived or died. After a year of having nothing, he suddenly had everything that mattered. That night, Nathan organized his new supplies carefully. He stored the non-perishable food in a plastic bin he'd found weeks ago. He folded the new clothes and put them in his backpack. He set up the new tarp to create a better shelter from the elements. And he charged his new phone using a power outlet he'd discovered in a maintenance area of the underpass. When the phone powered on, he found the contacts already programmed in: Marcus, Diane, Rebecca, and several others labeled Desert Riders. There was also a text message from Rebecca. Nathan, I'm so glad Marcus found you. You deserve this chance. If you need anything at all, please call me. You're part of our family now. Rebecca. Nathan read the message 3 times, hardly believing it was real. Part of their family. He had a family again. The weekend passed slowly. Nathan spent Saturday cleaning himself up with his new supplies, organizing his camp, and trying to calm his nerves about starting work Monday. Sunday, He walked the 4 miles to the shop location to make sure he knew exactly how to get there and how long it would take. The neighborhood was industrial but not threatening, and the shop itself was impressive. A large building with a parking lot full of motorcycles and cars, a big sign that read, Garrett's Custom Bikes. And through the windows, Nathan could see pristine workspace and gleaming motorcycles in various stages of repair and customization. This was real. This was really happening. Monday morning, Nathan woke up at 5:30 a.m., even though he didn't need to be at the shop until 8. He washed carefully with his new soap, put on his new clothes, and made the walk to West McDowell Road. He arrived at 7:30, 30 minutes early. Marcus was already there, opening up the shop. When he saw Nathan standing in the parking lot, he smiled. "You're early. Good. Come on, let me show you around." The shop was even more impressive inside. The main floor had 6 work bays, each equipped with lifts, tool chests, and diagnostic equipment. Motorcycles in various states of repair occupied most of the bays. There was a paint booth in the back, a parts room stocked floor to ceiling, and a small office where Marcus apparently did paperwork. "This is Jose," Marcus said, introducing Nathan to a stocky man in his 40s with grease-stained hands and a warm smile. "He's my head mechanic. Jose, this is Nathan. He's going to be helping out around the shop." Jose shook Nathan's hand firmly. "Good to meet you, kid. You know anything about motorcycles?" "No, sir," Nathan admitted. "But I'm willing to learn. That's all I need to hear. I can teach skills. I can't teach work ethic." "You got a work ethic?" "Yes, sir." "Then we'll get along fine." The first day was overwhelming but good. Nathan spent most of it shadowing Jose, learning the names of tools, understanding the basic layout of different motorcycle makes and models, and doing simple tasks like cleaning parts, organizing the tool room, and sweeping the shop floors. It was physical work, and by the end of the day, Nathan was exhausted. But it was the good kind of exhaustion, the kind that came from accomplishment rather than mere survival. Marcus paid him in cash at the end of the day, $80 for 8 hours of work. Nathan stared at the bills in his hand, hardly believing it. In one day, he'd made more than he usually made in a week of scraping by. "You did good today," Marcus said. "Jose says you listen well and follow instructions. Keep that up, and you'll go far here." "Thank you," Nathan said earnestly. "For all of this. For the job, for the supplies, for seeing me." Marcus's expression softened. "We all need someone to see us, Nathan. I'm glad we could be that for you." The weeks that followed fell into a routine. Nathan worked Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. He learned quickly, his hands becoming skilled at tasks he'd never imagined himself doing. He learned to use a torque wrench properly, to identify different parts by sight, and to understand the basics of how engines worked. Jose was a patient teacher, showing him things multiple times if needed, praising his progress, and correcting his mistakes with kindness. But more than the skills, Nathan found something he hadn't expected: camaraderie. The shop was often busy with Desert Riders members who brought their bikes in for maintenance or upgrades. They all knew who Nathan was, the kid who'd helped Rebecca, and they treated him with respect. They joked with him, included him in conversations, and taught him about motorcycle culture and the Brotherhood of the club. Diane stopped by regularly, always checking on Nathan, making sure he had everything he needed. One day, she brought him a sturdy backpack to replace his threadbare one. Another day, she showed up with a prepaid debit card loaded with $500. "What's this for?" Nathan asked, confused. "Marcus and I talked. You're doing great at the shop, but you're still living under an overpass. This is to help you get an actual place. First month's rent, security deposit, whatever you need." Nathan's eyes filled with tears. Again, he seemed to cry a lot these days. "I don't know what to say. Say you'll use it to get yourself somewhere safe to live. That's all we want." With Diane's help, Nathan found a small studio apartment in a modest complex not far from the shop. It wasn't fancy, just one room with a tiny kitchen and bathroom, but it was his. He had a door that locked, a bed, a shower, a refrigerator. After nearly a year on the streets, it felt like a palace. Rebecca came to visit the day after Nathan moved in. Marcus had driven her over, and she brought a housewarming gift: dishes, pots and pans, basic cooking utensils, and groceries to fill his empty cabinets. "I want you to eat real meals, Nathan," she said as Marcus helped her put things away. "Not just fast food and convenience store snacks. Take care of yourself." "I will," Nathan promised. "Rebecca, I don't know how to thank you. You and Marcus, you've changed my life." Rebecca smiled, her sightless eyes somehow seeming to look right at him. "Nathan, you thank me by being exactly who you are. You didn't have to help me that day. You could have walked past as everyone else does. But you didn't. That's not something we gave you. That was already inside you. We just allowed you to build on it." The months rolled by, and Nathan's transformation continued. He gained weight, his face filling out, his body growing stronger from the physical work at the shop. He enrolled in night classes at the community college, working toward his GED. Jose had started teaching him actual mechanic work, not just the basic tasks, and Nathan discovered he had an aptitude for it. There was something satisfying about diagnosing problems, about taking something broken and making it work again. He celebrated his 18th birthday in November, and the Desert Riders threw him a party at the shop. There was a cake, presents, and more people who cared about him than Nathan had ever imagined possible. Marcus gave him a raise, up to $25 an hour, and Jose presented him with his own set of basic tools. "Every real mechanic needs their own tools," Jose said, handing over the toolbox. "These are yours. Take care of them, and they'll take care of you." Nathan ran his fingers over the shiny chrome wrenches, the precision screwdrivers, the socket sets. His own tools, his own trade, his own future is taking shape. But life, Nathan was learning, never stayed simple for long. It was a cold January afternoon when everything changed. Nathan was in the shop, helping Jose with a particularly stubborn carburetor rebuild, when Marcus's phone rang. Nathan watched Marcus's expression shift from neutral to concerned to something darker, anger mixed with fear. Marcus hung up and immediately started making more calls, his voice tight and controlled. Within minutes, Diane arrived. Then the other club members, all looking serious. Something was wrong. Nathan tried to focus on his work, but the tension in the air was impossible to ignore. Finally, Marcus called everyone together. "Listen up," Marcus said, his voice carrying authority. "We've got a situation. There's been an incident at the Phoenix Children's Hospital. Some piece of shit opened fire in the parking lot during a shift change. Multiple casualties. Rebecca was there. She does volunteer work with the Children's Trauma Therapy Program. She's physically okay, but she's shaken up. They've locked down the hospital, and she can't get out until the police clear the scene." Nathan's blood ran cold. Rebecca, the woman who had started all of this, who had given him a chance when no one else would. She was trapped in a hospital with an active shooter situation. "What do we do?" Diane asked, echoing everyone's thoughts. "We wait," Marcus said, though Nathan could see how much it cost him to say it. "The police are handling it. Going down there would just complicate things. But the second they give the all clear, I'm going to get her." The next 2 hours were the longest of Nathan's life. Everyone stayed at the shop, glued to news coverage on their phones, waiting for updates. The shooter had been neutralized by hospital security within minutes, but one security guard had been killed and 3 nurses were injured. The hospital was on lockdown while police processed the scene. Nathan couldn't sit still. He paced, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if Rebecca had been closer to the shooting? What if she'd been hurt and they didn't know it yet? What if the lockdown lasted for hours and she was scared and alone? Finally, Marcus's phone rang. He answered immediately. "Rebecca? Baby, are you okay?" Nathan watched Marcus's face relax slightly as he listened. Rebecca was safe, unharmed, but clearly traumatized. When Marcus hung up, he looked at the assembled riders. "They're letting people leave now. I'm going to get her." "Nathan," he looked directly at Nathan. "I want you to come with me." Nathan blinked in surprise. "Me? What?" "Because when Rebecca is scared, your voice calms her. She told me that after the intersection incident. She trusts you. Right now, she needs people she trusts around her." They rode to the hospital on Marcus's bike, Nathan holding on tight, his mind still reeling. When they arrived, the parking lot was chaos. Police vehicles everywhere, news crews, worried family members waiting for information about injured loved ones. Marcus navigated through it all with practiced ease, his presence commanding enough that people simply moved out of his way. They found Rebecca sitting on a bench near the main entrance, still wearing her volunteer badge, her white cane clutched in both hands. She looked small and fragile in a way Nathan had never seen before. When Marcus called her name, she stood immediately, her whole body trembling. "Marcus," she said, her voice breaking. "I heard the shots. I couldn't see what was happening, couldn't see where they were coming from. I just heard people screaming and running, and I didn't know which way to go. I couldn't." Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "You're safe now. I've got you. Nathan's here too," Marcus added. "He wanted to make sure you were okay." Rebecca's head turned toward Nathan's voice. "Nathan, I'm here," Nathan said, stepping closer. "Are you hurt? Did they check you out?" "I'm not hurt. Just scared." She reached out her hand, and Nathan took it, squeezing gently. "Thank you for coming." "Of course. Your family." The word hung in the air. Family. It was the first time Nathan had said it out loud, but it was true. Rebecca and Marcus, Diane and Jose, the Desert Riders, they had become his family in every way that mattered. They took Rebecca home, a modest house on the east side with a well-maintained yard and a ramp leading to the front door. Marcus guided her inside with the practiced care of someone who had done it thousands of times, and Nathan followed, unsure if he should stay or give them privacy. "Stay," Rebecca said, as if reading his mind. "Please, I don't want to be alone with my thoughts right now." So Nathan stayed. He made tea while Marcus helped Rebecca change into comfortable clothes. They sat in the living room, the three of them, and talked about everything except the shooting. Rebecca asked about Nathan's classes, about what he was learning at the shop, and about his apartment. Marcus told stories about ridiculous repair requests he'd gotten that week. Nathan talked about Jose teaching him to rebuild a transmission. Normal conversation. Normal topics. A way to ground Rebecca in normalcy after trauma. Eventually, other desert riders started arriving. Diane brought food. Jose and his wife came to check on Rebecca. More members showed up, filling the house with presence and love and protective energy. This was what the club did, Nathan realized. When one of their own was hurt or scared, they surrounded them with support. Watching them care for Rebecca, Nathan understood something profound. The Desert Riders weren't a gang. They were a tribe, a family bound not by blood but by choice and loyalty. They had taken him in, given him a place to belong, and now he was seeing the depth of that bond. Around 10 that evening, when Rebecca had finally relaxed enough to smile at one of Jose's terrible jokes, Marcus pulled Nathan aside. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly, "for being here. For her. I didn't do anything. You did. Your presence matters to her. To both of us." Marcus paused. "Nathan, I want to ask you something. The club is having a vote next month. We're considering expanding our membership, bringing in new blood. I'd like to propose you as a prospect." Nathan's eyes widened. "A prospect? You mean, join the Desert Riders? Not full membership right away. You'd be a prospect first, kind of like a probationary period. You'd learn our ways, prove yourself, and show you understand what it means to be part of the Brotherhood. But yeah, eventually, if you want it, you could become a full member." Patched in. "I don't know anything about motorcycle clubs. I don't even have a bike." Marcus smiled. "We can teach you about the club. And as for the bike, well, that's something we can work on. I'm not pressuring you, Nathan. But you've shown us who you are over these past months. You're loyal, hardworking, and honest. You put others before yourself. Those are the qualities we value. Think about it." Nathan did think about it. For days, he thought about little else. Joining the Desert Riders would mean committing to something bigger than himself. It would mean responsibilities, obligations, loyalty to the club and its members. But it would also mean belonging to something, being part of a real family, having brothers and sisters who would always have his back. He thought about his mother, about what she would want for him. She'd always told him to find good people and hold on to them. The Desert Riders were good people. Rough around the edges, maybe, intimidating to outsiders certainly, but fundamentally good. 2 weeks later, Nathan gave Marcus his answer, yes. The prospect process was intense. Nathan learned the club's history, its rules, and its hierarchy. He attended church, what they called their official meetings, and listened as the members discussed club business, charity events, and community issues. He learned that the Desert Riders weren't just about motorcycles. They ran a food bank, sponsored a youth boxing gym, did toy drives for underprivileged kids, and provided security escorts for domestic violence survivors who needed to retrieve belongings from dangerous situations. They were, in many ways, the guardians of their community, and Nathan wanted to be part of that. Marcus started teaching Nathan to ride. They used an older Harley from the shop, and Nathan spent hours in an empty parking lot learning to balance, to shift, to feel the machine respond to his body. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. The first time he completed a figure eight without putting his feet down, Marcus actually cheered. "You're a natural," Marcus said, genuine pride in his voice. "Give it a few more weeks, and you'll be ready for the road." But not everything was smooth. Being a prospect meant proving yourself, and not everyone in the club was immediately sold on Nathan. A member named Rick, a grizzled veteran in his 50s who'd been with the club for over 20 years, was particularly skeptical. "He's too young," Rick said at a church meeting Nathan wasn't supposed to hear. "Too soft. He doesn't understand what it means to be a one-percenter, to live outside society's rules." "We're not outlaws anymore, Rick," Diane countered. "We evolved. We're a community service organization that happens to ride motorcycles." Nathan fits that vision perfectly. "He's a charity case," Rick shot back. "Marcus took him in because of Rebecca, not because he earned it." Marcus's voice, when he responded, was cold and hard. "Nathan saved my wife's life. He showed character when he had nothing to gain from it. That's more than some people who wear our patch have ever done. He's earned his shot, and he'll get it." This vote isn't about whether he deserves a chance. It's about whether we're still a club that values character over ego. The vote, when it came, was contentious but ultimately in Nathan's favor. 15-3. He became an official prospect of the Desert Riders, with all the responsibilities and privileges that entailed. What are your thoughts on Nathan's journey so far? Have you ever been given a second chance that changed your life? Share your story in the comments. We love hearing from you. As a prospect, Nathan wore a leather vest with a patch that identified him as Prospect, Desert Riders MC. It marked him as someone under the club's protection, but not yet a full member. He had duties, showing up early to club events to help set up, staying late to clean up, running errands for patched members, proving his reliability and dedication. Some prospects found the process demeaning, but Nathan didn't. After living on the streets where he'd had to prove his worth every single day just to survive, doing tasks to prove his loyalty to a group that actually cared about him felt like a privilege. Spring came to Phoenix, bringing with it the brutal heat that would dominate the next 6 months. Nathan had been working at the shop for nearly a year now, and Jose had officially promoted him from helper to junior mechanic. He was actually getting paid to do real mechanic work, diagnosing problems, performing repairs, and taking pride in his craft. He'd also gotten his GED, passing with scores high enough to qualify for community college if he wanted to pursue further education. Rebecca had been there when he got his results, and she'd hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. "I'm so proud of you," she said, tears running down her cheeks behind her dark glasses. "Thomas, my late father, he always said education was the key to freedom. You've earned that key, Nathan." Life felt stable for the first time in years. Nathan had a job, an apartment, a family, and a purpose. He was learning a trade, building a future, becoming someone his younger self would have been proud of. But stability, Nathan was learning, could be fragile. It was a Saturday in April when Nathan got the call from Diane. Her voice was tense, urgent. "Nathan, we need you at the clubhouse. Now, there's been an incident." Nathan's heart dropped. "What kind of incident? Is someone hurt? Just get here. Fast." Nathan grabbed his vest and helmet and rode his bike. He'd saved up and bought a used Sportster with Jose's help, to the Desert Riders Clubhouse, a building on the south side that served as their headquarters. The parking lot was full of motorcycles, and through the windows, he could see the main room packed with members. When Nathan walked in, every head turned. The atmosphere was tense, angry. Marcus stood at the front of the room, his expression grim. "Nathan," Marcus said. "Good. You're here. We need to talk about something, and you need to hear it from us before you hear it anywhere else. Okay, Nathan said slowly, his stomach churning with anxiety. What's going on? Marcus pulled out his phone and pulled up a news article. He handed it to Nathan. The headline read, "Local Motorcycle Club Accused of Harboring Fugitive." Nathan's blood ran cold as he read. The article claimed that the Desert Riders were protecting someone wanted by the police for assault and battery. It named specific members, including Marcus and Diane. It suggested the club was involved in criminal activity, that they were a violent gang masquerading as a community service organization. This is bullshit, Nathan said immediately. The club doesn't. We know it's bullshit, Diane interrupted. But the damage is done. The story's everywhere. Local news picked it up. Parents are calling the youth center, saying they don't want their kids around us anymore. The hospital called Rebecca and told her they're reviewing her volunteer position. People we've helped for years are suddenly treating us like criminals. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. Who wrote this? Who would? Guy named Derek Simmons, Marcus said, his voice tight with controlled rage. Local blogger who's been trying to make a name for himself by writing exposés. Apparently, someone fed him false information about us, and he ran with it without fact-checking. The fugitive he's talking about is Tony. Marcus gestured to a member Nathan knew, a quiet guy in his 30s who worked construction, who got into a bar fight 3 years ago, served his time, and has been clean ever since. But Simmons is implying we're hiding him from active warrants. It's a complete fabrication. We're filing a lawsuit, Diane added. Defamation, libel, the works. But legal processes take time. In the meantime, our reputation is being destroyed. Nathan looked around the room at the faces of people who had become his family. They looked angry, yes, but also hurt. These were people who spent their free time running food banks and escorting abuse survivors to safety. They raised money for sick kids. They mentored at-risk youth. And now they were being painted as criminals. What can I do? Nathan asked. How can I help? Marcus met his eyes. Actually, we think you might be the key to fixing this. Me? How? You're our best story, Diane explained. You're the kid who helped Rebecca, who we gave a chance to. You're working, going to school, building a life. You're proof that everything this article says about us is wrong. We want to tell your story. With your permission. Nathan swallowed hard. You want me to go public? Talk to the media? Not the media exactly, Marcus said. We're thinking something different. A community forum. We'll invite people who've known us for years, people we've helped, families from the programs we support. We'll let them tell their stories about who we really are. And we'd like you to tell yours. Show Phoenix who the Desert Riders actually are. It was terrifying. The thought of standing in front of hundreds of people, telling them about being homeless, about his struggles, about his transformation, it made Nathan want to run. But these people had saved him. They'd given him everything. If speaking up could help clear their name, how could he refuse? Okay, Nathan said, his voice steadier than he felt. I'll do it. The community forum was organized for the following Saturday at a local community center. The Desert Riders reached out to everyone they'd ever helped, every organization they'd partnered with, every family whose lives they'd touched. The response was overwhelming. The community center, which could hold about 300 people, was packed to capacity, with more people standing outside. Nathan stood backstage, if you could call the small prep area behind the makeshift stage a backstage, his hands shaking, his stomach in knots. He'd written notes for what he wanted to say, but they felt inadequate. How could he possibly capture everything the Desert Riders had done for him in a 5-minute speech? Rebecca found him there, her cane tapping softly as she approached. She reached out, and Nathan took her hand. Nervous? She asked. Terrified. Good. That means it matters to you. Nathan, all you have to do is tell the truth. Tell them who you were, who you are now, and who helped you get here. The truth is powerful. It's all you need. Marcus appeared behind her. It's time. You ready? Nathan took a deep breath. As ready as I'll ever be. The forum started with Marcus giving opening remarks, explaining why they'd called the meeting and addressing the accusations head-on. Then, one by one, people came forward to speak. A single mother talked about how the Desert Riders had fixed her car for free when she couldn't afford repairs and needed it to get to work. A youth boxing coach described how the club had sponsored his gym, providing equipment and mentorship for at-risk kids. A domestic violence survivor, her voice shaking but determined, explained how Desert Riders members had escorted her to retrieve her belongings from an abusive ex, keeping her safe when the police couldn't. The director of the Phoenix Children's Hospital spoke about the club's fundraising efforts, the thousands of dollars they'd raised for pediatric cancer research. Story after story after story. A tapestry of community service and genuine care. By the time Nathan was called to the stage, the mood in the room had shifted from skeptical curiosity to something else, recognition, maybe even shame that they'd believe the accusations without question. Nathan walked to the microphone on legs that felt like jelly. He looked out at the sea of faces, hundreds of people, all watching him, waiting to hear what he had to say. He saw Marcus and Rebecca in the front row. Diane was beside them, Jose and his wife, the club members who had become his brothers and sisters. He saw Derek Simmons, the blogger who'd written the article, sitting near the back with a notebook and a skeptical expression. Nathan cleared his throat and began. My name is Nathan Pierce. I'm 18 years old, and a little over a year ago, I was homeless, living under the Franklin Street overpass, eating from dumpsters, and convinced that nobody in the world cared if I lived or died. The room went completely silent. Nathan continued, telling his story from the beginning. His mother's death. His stepfather kicked him out. The failure of the system to help him. The 11 months he spent on the streets, invisible to everyone around him. Then he told them about Rebecca, about seeing her trying to cross a dangerous intersection, about choosing to help her even though he had nothing to gain from it. I helped her because it was the right thing to do, Nathan said. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know her husband was the president of the Desert Riders. I just saw someone who needed help, and I helped. That's it. That's all I did. He paused, looking directly at the crowd. But what happened next changed my life. Marcus Garrett and the Desert Riders found me. They brought me supplies. They gave me a job. They taught me a trade. They helped me get an apartment, get my GED, and build a future. They didn't have to do any of that. I was nobody, just another homeless kid. But they saw me as a person worth investing in. Nathan's voice grew stronger as he continued. The article that was written about the Desert Riders calls them a gang, calls them criminals. But let me tell you what they really are. They're a family. They're people who show up when others need help. They're the ones who run food banks and mentor troubled kids and raise money for sick children and make the community safer. They're the ones who gave a homeless teenager a second chance when he had nothing and no one. He looked directly at Derek Simmons. I'm standing here today because of the Desert Riders. I have a job because of them. I have a home because of them. I have a future because of them. And I'm not the only one. Look around this room. Every person who spoke tonight has a story about how this club helped them. That's not what gangs do. That's what families do. That's what good people do. Nathan's voice broke slightly. So yeah, I'm biased. I owe these people everything. But my bias doesn't change the facts. The facts are that the Desert Riders have done more good in this community than most people will do in their entire lives. And they did it without asking for recognition or praise. They did it because it's who they are. He stepped back from the microphone. The room was silent for a heartbeat. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Within seconds, the entire room was on their feet, applauding. Nathan saw people crying, saw Rebecca sobbing in Marcus's arms, saw Derek Simmons sitting very still with an expression Nathan couldn't quite read. The applause went on for what felt like forever. When it finally died down, Marcus stood and made his way to the stage. He pulled Nathan into a tight hug. You did good, kid, Marcus whispered. Real good. The impact of the forum was immediate and powerful. Local news outlets that had run the original story now covered the community response. Videos of Nathan's speech went viral on social media. Derek Simmons issued a public apology and retraction, admitting he'd failed to properly verify his sources and had allowed his desire for a sensational story to override his journalistic integrity. The lawsuit the club had filed was settled quietly, with Simmons and his publication agreeing to a substantial donation to the Desert Riders community programs and a prominent correction published on their platform. But more than the legal victory, the forum had done something else. It had shown Phoenix who the Desert Riders really were. The negative perception didn't disappear overnight, but it shifted. People who had believed the worst began to question their assumptions. Organizations that had distanced themselves reached back out. The hospital reinstated Rebecca's volunteer position with an apology, and Nathan, who had only wanted to help the people who'd helped him, found himself somewhat famous. People recognized him at the shop, thanked him for speaking up, and told him his story had inspired them. It was overwhelming and uncomfortable. Nathan didn't want to be famous. He just wanted to work on motorcycles and belong to his found family. But Marcus helped him understand that his visibility could be used for good. "You've got a platform now," Marcus explained one evening at the shop. "People are listening to you. We can use that to help others. To shine a light on homelessness, on the failures of the foster care system, on all the issues you've lived through. Your story can make a difference." So Nathan started speaking at high schools and community centers, sharing his experience, advocating for homeless youth, and encouraging people to see past appearances to the humanity beneath. It wasn't comfortable, but it felt important. Summer arrived, bringing with it Nathan's first anniversary of helping Rebecca. The club threw a party to celebrate, not just the anniversary, but everything that had happened since. Nathan's transformation. The community is rallying around the club, the good that had come from one simple act of kindness. At the party, Marcus made an announcement that surprised everyone, including Nathan. "Nathan Pierce came to us as a prospect," Marcus said, addressing the gathered club members. "He was supposed to spend at least a year proving himself, learning our ways, earning his patch. But what Nathan has done goes beyond normal prospect duties. He defended this club when we were under attack. He put himself in the public eye to protect our reputation. He's shown loyalty, courage, and integrity beyond what we could have asked for." Marcus turned to face Nathan directly. "The executive board has voted. We're cutting your prospect period short. Nathan Pierce, we'd like to offer you full membership in the Desert Riders Motorcycle Club. What do you say?" Nathan felt like the ground had dropped out from under him. Full membership. A patch. Complete belonging to this family. He looked around at the faces watching him, Diane grinning, Jose nodding with approval, Rebecca smiling with tears streaming down her face, and dozens of other members who had become his brothers and sisters. "I say yes," Nathan managed, his voice thick with emotion. "I'd be honored." The club erupted in cheers. Diane came forward with the leather vest, Nathan's vest, but now with the full Desert Riders patch sewn onto the back. The bottom rocker read Phoenix. The top read Desert Riders MC. And in the center, the club's emblem. Marcus helped Nathan put it on, then pulled him into a bear hug. "Welcome home, brother." Nathan was no longer a prospect. He was a full member. He belonged completely. The months that followed were some of the best of Nathan's life. He continued working at the shop, now as a full-fledged mechanic. He took on more responsibility in the club, participating in planning charity events and community outreach programs. He completed his first year of community college courses, maintaining a 3.8 GPA while working full-time. But more than any of that, he had family. Real, chosen family who showed up for each other in good times and bad. When Jose's wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, the club rallied around them, organizing fundraisers for medical bills, taking shifts helping with their kids, and making sure Jose knew he wasn't alone. Nathan was part of that support system, and it felt good to give back to people who had given him so much. When Diane's son graduated from high school, the entire club showed up to celebrate. When Rick, the member who had initially doubted Nathan, lost his job and fell on hard times, Nathan was one of the first to offer help, remembering what it felt like to have nothing. Rick's gratitude was grudging but genuine, and their relationship shifted from skeptical tolerance to mutual respect. Nathan kept in touch with Rebecca, visiting regularly, sometimes just sitting with her and talking about life. She'd become a mother figure to him, offering advice and wisdom, celebrating his victories, and comforting him through his struggles. On a cool November evening, almost 18 months after that fateful day at the intersection, Nathan sat on Rebecca and Marcus's back porch, drinking coffee and watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. "I've been thinking," Nathan said, about how everything happened, about how one choice changed everything. You helping me cross the street, Rebecca said. Yeah, if I'd walked past that day, if I'd decided it wasn't my problem, none of this would have happened. I'd probably still be under that overpass. Or dead. But I made one choice to help someone, and it changed my entire life. Rebecca was quiet for a moment, then smiled. You know what I think? I think you would have found your way eventually. Because that choice to help me wasn't random, Nathan. It was who you are. You're someone who helps people even when it costs you something. That's character. That's your foundation. The Desert Riders just allowed you to build on it. Maybe, Nathan said. But I'm grateful it happened the way it did. I'm grateful you needed help that day. I'm grateful Marcus found me. I'm grateful for all of it. So am I, Rebecca said softly. You saved my life, Nathan. But in a way, I think we saved each other. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky darken, the first stars appearing overhead. Nathan thought about the boy he'd been, scared, alone, convinced he was worthless. And he thought about who he was now, a skilled mechanic, a college student, a member of a brotherhood, a young man with a future full of possibilities. One choice, one moment of kindness. That's all it had taken to change everything. Winter came again, marking 2 full years since Nathan had helped Rebecca. The club organized a special event to commemorate the anniversary. Not just Nathan's story, but a celebration of all the ways kindness rippled outward. They called it the ripple effect, and it was part fundraiser, part community celebration. They invited everyone whose lives had been touched by the Desert Riders community service work. They raised money for homeless services, for foster care advocacy, and for programs that helped at-risk youth. Nathan spoke again, but this time his message was different. He wasn't just telling his own story. He was challenging others to create their own ripples. You don't have to be rich to make a difference, Nathan told the crowd. You don't have to have power or status or resources. You just have to see people. Really see them. See the homeless person not as a problem, but as a human being. See the struggling single parent not as lazy, but as overwhelmed. See the kid acting out, not as bad, but as hurting. And then do something, even something small. He paused, looking out at the hundreds of faces watching him. Help someone cross a street. Buy a sandwich for someone hungry. Offer a kind word to someone who looks alone. Give someone a chance who everyone else has written off. You never know what ripples your kindness might create. You never know whose life you might change. You never know how much of a difference one choice can make. The crowd was silent, absorbing his words. Then someone stood up, an older woman Nathan didn't recognize. She spoke, her voice carrying clearly. My grandson was living on the streets 2 years ago. I tried everything to help him, but he'd given up. Then some bikers found him and gave him a job. Nathan, you probably don't remember me, but I came to one of your talks at a community center last year. You inspired my grandson to accept help, to believe he could have a future. He's 6 months sober now. He's working. He's rebuilding his life. You did that. Your story did that. Another person stood. I used to judge homeless people. I used to think they were lazy or addicts who deserved their situation. Then I heard Nathan speak. I started volunteering at a homeless shelter. I've met people with stories like Nathan's, people who just needed a chance. I've changed my entire perspective because of you. One by one, people stood to share how Nathan's story, how the Desert Riders work, and how this culture of kindness had impacted them. Teachers were now more patient with troubled students. Business owners who were hiring people with rough backgrounds. Regular people who were paying more attention, helping more, and judging less. The ripples spread far beyond what Nathan could have imagined. As the event wound down and people began to leave, Derek Simmons, the blogger who had written the original hit piece, approached Nathan. They hadn't spoken since the community forum, though Simmons had written several follow-up pieces correcting his errors and highlighting the Desert Riders community work. Nathan, Simmons said, extending his hand. I owe you an apology. Not just for the article, but for my cynicism. I'd stopped believing people could be genuinely good without ulterior motives. You proved me wrong. Nathan shook his hand. People make mistakes. What matters is what you do after. I've been thinking about that. About redemption and second chances. You got one. I got one. Maybe I should be helping others get theirs, too. Simmons paused. I'm starting a new project. A series highlighting people and organizations doing real good in the community. Stories that inspire rather than tear down. Would you be willing to be interviewed? Help me show others what's possible. Nathan considered. More publicity, more attention. Part of him wanted to say no, to retreat into the comfortable obscurity of just working and living his life. But he thought about the grandmother whose grandson had been inspired by his story. He thought about all the people tonight who'd said his words had made them see the world differently. Yeah, Nathan said. I'll do it. But on one condition, you don't just focus on me. You tell the stories of everyone here. All the people the Desert Riders have helped. All the work they do. The whole picture. Deal, Simmons agreed. The series, when it was published over the following months, became widely read. It highlighted not just the Desert Riders, but dozens of other community organizations doing quiet, unglamorous work to help people. It changed the conversation in Phoenix from fear and judgment to compassion and action. More businesses started hiring people with criminal records or gaps in their employment history. More landlords agreed to rent to people with complicated backgrounds. More community members volunteered at shelters and food banks. The ripples kept spreading. Nathan turned 20, then 21. He was no longer a kid but a young man, confident and capable. He'd completed his associate degree and was considering whether to pursue further education or focus on advancing in his mechanic career. Jose had hinted that he was thinking about retirement in a few years and wanted Nathan to eventually take over as head mechanic at the shop. The Desert Riders continued to grow and evolve. They formalized their community service work, creating a nonprofit arm of the club dedicated to homeless outreach, foster care advocacy, and youth mentorship. Nathan sat on the board of directors, using his lived experience to shape programs that actually helped rather than just making helpers feel good. Rebecca's volunteer work at the hospital expanded. She now runs training sessions for hospital staff on how to better serve patients with disabilities, turning her own challenges into tools to help others. Marcus and Diane opened a second motorcycle shop location, employing more people from rough backgrounds, giving them the same chance they'd given Nathan. 3 years after that day at the intersection, on a warm spring afternoon, Nathan was working on a custom build at the shop when a teenage girl walked in. She was maybe 15, skinny, with clothes that had seen better days and eyes that held the particular wariness Nathan recognized immediately. She was homeless, or close to it. "Can I help you?" Nathan asked, setting down his tools and walking over. The girl looked around nervously. "I heard. Someone told me that this place sometimes hires people. People who don't have a lot of experience. I was wondering if maybe you needed help. I can clean, organize, whatever you need. I'm a hard worker, I promise." Nathan's heart squeezed. He saw himself in her. The desperation, the hope, the fear of rejection. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Riley. I'm Nathan." "How old are you, Riley?" 15. "Where are your parents?" Riley's jaw tightened. "Don't have any. I aged out of foster care, and the group home I was in was bad. I left. I've been staying with friends mostly, but that's not working out." Nathan glanced at Jose, who was working nearby, but clearly listening. Jose nodded almost imperceptibly. They both knew what needed to happen. "Riley, we can't officially hire you until you're 16, labor laws," Nathan explained. "But I have a better idea. Let me make a phone call." He called Rebecca, explained the situation. Within an hour, Rebecca had connected Riley with a youth advocate she worked with, who got Riley into a safe emergency placement. Within a week, they'd found her a spot in a better group home, one that Rebecca personally vetted. And Nathan made Riley a promise. When she turned 16 in 3 months, there would be a job waiting for her at Garrett's Custom Bikes if she wanted it. "Why are you helping me?" Riley asked, bewildered by how quickly things were moving. "You don't know me." Nathan smiled. "Someone helped me once when they didn't know me either. I'm just paying it forward." True to his word, when Riley turned 16, Nathan hired her. She started the same way he had, sweeping, organizing, learning. Jose took her under his wing the same way he'd done with Nathan. And the cycle continued. But Riley wasn't the only one. Over the next few years, Nathan and the Desert Riders helped dozens of young people, some homeless, some aging out of foster care, some just lost and looking for direction. They created a pipeline: identification, connection to services, employment, mentorship, and support. Not everyone who came through succeeded, but many did. And each success was a validation of everything the club stood for. On Nathan's 23rd birthday, Marcus called him into the office at the shop. Nathan expected maybe a bonus or a card from the club. What he got was something entirely different. "Sit down," Marcus said, his tone serious but not angry. Nathan sat, confused. "Nathan, you've been with the club for almost 6 years now. You've grown from a scared kid to a man I'm proud to call my brother. You've become a skilled mechanic, a mentor to others, and a leader in the community. Jose wants to retire next year, and he's recommending you to take over as head mechanic." Nathan's eyes widened. "Head mechanic? Marcus, I'm 23. There are guys here with way more experience." "Experience isn't just about years," Marcus interrupted. "It's about wisdom, character, leadership. You've got all of that. But that's not why I called you in here." Marcus pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. Nathan opened it, confused, and found himself looking at legal documents. Incorporation papers, business licenses, financial statements. "What is this?" Nathan asked. "That's the paperwork for a new business. A nonprofit specifically focused on helping homeless youth. Employment training, housing assistance, and mentorship programs. Everything you've been doing informally, but structured and funded properly." Marcus leaned forward. "Rebecca and I want to fund it. We're putting up the seed money to get it started, but we don't want to run it. We're not the right people for that." "You are." Nathan stared at the papers, unable to process what he was hearing. "You want me to run a nonprofit? We want you to build the thing you needed when you were 17. The bridge between homelessness and stability. The support system that catches kids before they fall through the cracks. You know what works and what doesn't because you lived it. You know how to connect with these kids because you were one of them. This is your chance to create systemic change, Nathan. Not just helping one person at a time, but building something that helps thousands." Nathan's hands trembled as he flipped through the papers. A real organization, real funding, real infrastructure to help kids like Riley, like he'd been, like thousands of others who were invisible to society. "I don't know the first thing about running a nonprofit," Nathan admitted. "You'll learn. Rebecca has connections, lawyers, accountants, people who run successful nonprofits. They'll help you set it up, and you won't be doing it alone. The club will support you. I'll support you. This is the next evolution of everything we've been building." Nathan looked up at Marcus, this man who had seen potential in a homeless teenager when no one else had, who had given him chance after chance, who had become the father figure Nathan had never had. "Why?" Nathan asked. "Why do all this for me?" Marcus smiled. "Because 6 years ago, you helped my wife cross a street when you had nothing to gain from it. And that one act of kindness changed everything. Not just for you, but for me, for the club, for everyone we've helped since. This nonprofit is the natural evolution of that moment, Nathan. It's the ripple continuing to spread. And I can't think of anyone better to lead it." Nathan felt tears streaming down his face. He didn't try to hide them. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes." Nathan took a shaky breath. "Yes. God, yes. Thank you." They shook hands. Then Marcus pulled him into a hug, and Nathan let himself be held, let himself feel the full weight of gratitude and love and possibility. The Nathan Pierce Foundation for Homeless Youth launched 6 months later with a small staff, a modest office, and big ambitions. Nathan brought on Riley, now 18 and thriving, as his assistant. They hired social workers, job counselors, and mentors. They partnered with existing homeless services to fill gaps rather than duplicate efforts. The foundation offered a comprehensive program: immediate needs assistance, food, clothing, hygiene products, emergency housing placement, job training and placement, educational support, mental health services, and long-term mentorship. It was everything Nathan wished had existed when he was 17. The first year was brutal. Nathan worked 18-hour days, learning nonprofit management on the fly, making mistakes, correcting course, pushing forward. There were times he wanted to quit, times he felt overwhelmed and inadequate. But Rebecca was always there with advice, Marcus with encouragement. The desert riders with muscle when he needed to move furniture or set up events. Riley, with her youthful energy and ideas. And the kids. God, the kids. Every young person who came through their doors, every success story, every life changed. That's what kept Nathan going. A 17-year-old who got his first apartment. A 16-year-old who went back to school. A 15-year-old who reconnected with family with their help. Each story was a validation. By the end of the second year, the foundation had helped over 200 young people. By year 3, they'd expanded to 2 locations. By year 5, they were operating in 4 cities across Arizona, had a staff of 25, and had helped over 1,000 youth. Nathan's story became well known. He spoke at conferences, advised other cities on homeless youth programs, and consulted with legislators on policy changes. But he never let the recognition go to his head. He remembered where he came from. He visited the Franklin Street overpass sometimes, standing where his cardboard camp used to be, remembering the hunger and fear and hopelessness. He never forgot. On a sunny October afternoon, 10 years after helping Rebecca cross that intersection, Nathan stood at a podium in front of a crowd of several hundred people. The Phoenix City Council was dedicating a new facility, a comprehensive youth services center that would provide everything from emergency shelter to long-term housing to job training to mental health services. They were calling it the Rebecca Garrett Youth Services Center, in honor of the woman whose chance encounter with a homeless teenager had sparked a movement of compassion. Rebecca stood beside Nathan on the stage, one hand on his arm, smiling behind her dark glasses. Marcus stood on her other side, his hand on her shoulder, looking out at the crowd with quiet pride. The entire Desert Riders membership was there, dozens of patched members who had helped build this, who had donated time and money and energy to making it real. Riley was there too, now 25 and running one of the foundation's satellite offices. Jose and his wife recovered from cancer and are thriving. Diane, who had recently been elected to the city council and had championed the funding for this center. Derek Simmons, whose redemption arc had included becoming an advocate for homeless services. And hundreds of others. Young people the foundation had helped, volunteers, donors, community members who had caught the vision of a city that didn't throw away its most vulnerable members. Nathan cleared his throat and began to speak. 10 years ago, I was homeless. 17 years old, living under an overpass, eating from dumpsters, convinced I was worthless. I had been invisible for so long that I'd started to believe I actually was nothing, that I didn't matter, that the world would be the same whether I existed or not. He paused, looking out at the crowd. Then one Tuesday afternoon, I saw a woman trying to cross a dangerous intersection. She was blind, confused by the chaos of traffic, and about to step into the path of a truck. I didn't think. I just moved. I grabbed her arm, stopped her, and helped her across safely. That woman was Rebecca Garrett. Rebecca squeezed his arm gently. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know she was married to the president of the Desert Riders. I just knew she needed help. And helping her felt good. For the first time in months, I felt like maybe I mattered after all. Maybe I could make a difference, even if I had nothing. Nathan's voice grew stronger. What I didn't know was that Rebecca could make a difference, too. When she told her husband Marcus about the homeless teenager who'd helped her, he made a choice. He chose to find me, to help me, to give me a job and a chance and a family. One act of kindness led to another, which led to another, which led to thousands more. He gestured to the building behind him. This center exists because 10 years ago, a blind woman and a homeless boy helped each other. This center exists because a motorcycle club decided that kindness and service mattered more than reputation or image. This center exists because hundreds of people saw what was possible and decided to be part of making it real. Nathan looked directly at the crowd, his eyes scanning faces. But most importantly, this center exists so that no kid in Phoenix has to sleep under an overpass, so that no teenager has to eat from dumpsters or believe they're worthless, so that every young person, no matter how lost they are, has somewhere to turn, someone to see them, someone to help them find their way. His voice broke slightly with emotion. I know what it's like to be invisible. I know what it's like to have people look through you like you don't exist. I know what it's like to believe you have no future. And I know what it's like when someone finally sees you, really sees you, and tells you that you matter. Nathan paused, collecting himself. So today, as we dedicate this center, I want to make a promise to every young person in Phoenix who's struggling right now. We see you. You matter. You're not invisible, and you're not worthless. And when you're ready to accept help, we'll be here. This building, these services, this community, we're here for you. He turned to Rebecca. Rebecca, you saved my life by letting me help you. You gave me purpose when I had none. And everything that's happened since, all of this, started with you seeing value in a homeless kid who had nothing. This center carries your name because you embody everything it stands for: compassion, dignity, and the unwavering belief that every person has worth. Rebecca was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Marcus wrapped his arm around her, his own eyes glistening. The crowd erupted in applause. It went on, people standing, cheering, some crying. Nathan stood there taking it in, feeling the weight of a decade of work, of transformation, of lives changed and futures rewritten. When the applause finally died down, Rebecca asked if she could speak. Nathan helped her to the microphone. I can't see you all, Rebecca said, her voice steady despite her tears, but I can feel you. I can feel the love in this space, the hope, the determination to make our city better. Nathan gives me too much credit. I didn't save him. He saved himself by being exactly who he is, someone who helps people even when it costs him something. I just had the privilege of being helped by him, and of watching him grow into the man he is today. She turned in Nathan's direction. Nathan, you are my son in every way that matters. I am so proud of you. So proud of the man you've become, the work you've done, the lives you've touched. Your mother would be proud, too. Wherever she is, she's looking down at you today and smiling. Nathan couldn't hold back his sobs anymore. He stepped forward and hugged Rebecca, this woman who had become his mother in all the ways that mattered, and let himself feel everything. The grief of what he'd lost, the gratitude for what he'd found, the joy of where he'd ended up, the hope for where he was going. The crowd gave them space, watching this moment of pure love between a blind woman and the man who had once been a homeless boy she'd never seen, but had recognized anyway. The dedication ceremony continued with speeches from city officials, tours of the facility, and a reception. But for Nathan, the most meaningful moment came later, after most of the crowd had dispersed. A teenage boy approached him, maybe 16, with the same wary look Nathan remembered seeing in Riley's eyes, in his own mirror. He was thin, his clothes worn, his eyes darting nervously. Are you Nathan Pierce? The boy asked quietly. I am. What's your name? Carlos. I'm staying at a friend's place, but it's not working out. Someone told me about your foundation, about this center. Do you think, could someone like me get help here? Nathan felt his heart expand. This was why they'd built this place. For Carlos and kids like him. For the ones who were where Nathan had been a decade ago. Yes, Nathan said firmly. Absolutely. This place was built for people exactly like you. Are you safe right now? Do you need immediate help? I'm okay for tonight, but I don't know about tomorrow. Okay, let me introduce you to some people. Nathan waved over one of the foundation's case managers. This is Sarah. She's going to help you. She's going to make sure you're safe, that you have a place to stay, that you get connected to everything you need. And Carlos, you're going to be okay. I promise you that. Carlos looked skeptical, the way Nathan would have been skeptical a decade ago. But there was also hope in his eyes. Fragile, tentative hope. How do you know? Carlos asked. Nathan smiled. Because I was you. 10 years ago, I was exactly where you are. And someone helped me. And now I get to help you. That's how this works. He watched as Sarah led Carlos inside to begin his intake process, beginning his journey from homelessness to stability. And Nathan felt the circle complete itself. He'd been helped. Now he helped others. And those others would someday help more people. The ripples spread outward, forever. As the sun set on that October evening, Nathan stood in the parking lot of the Rebecca Garrett Youth Services Center, watching the last few people leave. Marcus came up beside him. You did good, kid, Marcus said, using the nickname that had stuck even though Nathan was now 27 and hardly a kid anymore. Better than good. You took the chance we gave you and built something that's going to help thousands of people. That's not just success, Nathan. That's legacy. I couldn't have done it without you. Without the club. Without Rebecca. Without all of it. Maybe. But you're the one who showed up every day and did the work. You're the one who turned your pain into purpose. That's all you, brother. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Marcus spoke again. You know what I think about sometimes? What would have happened if Rebecca had taken a different route that day? If she'd called for a different ride? If you'd been at a different corner? The universe had to line up perfectly for you two to meet. Nathan shook his head. I don't think it was the universe. I think it was a choice. Rebecca chose to go downtown that day, even though it was hard. I chose to help her even though I was scared. You chose to find me and help me even though you didn't have to. Hundreds of people chose to support this work even though it would have been easier not to. Yeah, maybe there was some luck in the timing. But the rest? That was all people choosing kindness over convenience. Marcus smiled. When did you get so wise? I had good teachers. They embraced this brotherhood that had been forged in a chance encounter and solidified through years of loyalty and love. Then Marcus climbed on his bike, and Nathan watched him ride off into the sunset, the desert rider's patch visible on his back. Nathan pulled out his phone and scrolled to a photo he'd saved years ago, the only picture he had of his mother, taken shortly before she died. She looked tired in the photo, worn down by addiction and hard living. But she was smiling. I did okay, Mom, Nathan whispered to the image. I didn't waste the life you gave me. I hope I made you proud. He put the phone away and looked up at the building. This center that would help so many. This legacy that had started with one choice on one Tuesday afternoon. Tomorrow, kids would walk through those doors looking for help. And they would find it. Because Nathan and his team would be there, ready to see them, to value them, to give them the same chance he'd been given. The ripples would continue to spread. The circle would continue to complete itself. And Phoenix would be a little bit kinder, a little bit more compassionate, because people had chosen to help each other. Nathan climbed into his truck. He still kept his motorcycle, but he'd bought a truck for practical purposes, and drove home to the small house he'd bought 2 years ago. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. Truly his. A place he'd earned through hard work and perseverance. As he pulled into his driveway, he saw lights on inside. Riley was there, probably having let herself in with the spare key he'd given her. They had dinner plans tonight, a tradition they'd started years ago. Once a week, they cooked together and talked about the foundation, about life, about everything and nothing. Nathan walked inside to find Riley in his kitchen, already starting dinner. She looked up when he entered and smiled. How'd it go? She asked. Good. Really good. We helped our first kid tonight. A 16-year-old named Carlos. Riley's smile widened. That's perfect. That's exactly what this was all for. They cooked together, talking and laughing, and Nathan felt content. He had work he believed in, people he loved, a purpose that gave his life meaning. He'd come so far from that scared 17-year-old under the overpass. But he never forgot where he came from. He couldn't, because forgetting would mean forgetting all the kids who were still out there, still scared, still invisible. And Nathan refused to let anyone be invisible ever again. That night, before bed, Nathan sat down and wrote in his journal, a habit Rebecca had encouraged him to start years ago. He wrote about the dedication ceremony, about Carlos, about the overwhelming feeling of having built something that mattered. And he wrote about gratitude. I'm grateful for that Tuesday 10 years ago, he wrote. I'm grateful I chose to help Rebecca. I'm grateful she let me. I'm grateful Marcus found me. I'm grateful the Desert Riders took a chance on a homeless kid with nothing to his name. I'm grateful for every person who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I'm grateful for the opportunity to now be that person for someone else. He paused, pen hovering over the page. Then he wrote one final line. Tomorrow, I get to help more kids like Carlos. And that's the greatest privilege of my life. Nathan closed the journal and turned off the light. As he lay in his bed, in his own house, with a job he loved and people who cared about him, he thought about how far he'd come. From invisible to visible. From worthless to valued. From hopeless to hopeful. All because of one choice. One moment of kindness that had rippled outward, changing everything. And tomorrow, those ripples would continue. More kids would be helped. More lives would be changed. More kindness would spread. It was a beautiful thought to fall asleep to. So what did you think of Nathan's incredible journey? From a homeless teenager to the founder of an organization helping thousands, his story proves that one act of kindness can change not just one life, but countless others. If this story moved you, we'd love to hear about it. Have you ever been in a situation where helping someone changed your life? Or has someone's kindness transformed your path? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might inspire someone else who needs to hear it. And if you believe in the power of compassion and second chances, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another story like Nathan's. These real-life accounts of human kindness remind us what's possible when we choose to see each other, to help each other, to be there for each other. Don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who needs a reminder that their circumstances don't define their worth. That one choice, one moment of courage, one act of kindness can create ripples that change the world. Nathan's story started with him helping a blind woman cross a dangerous intersection. It grew into a movement that has helped thousands of young people find their way home. Your story could start today. All it takes is one choice: to see someone who's invisible, to help someone who's struggling, to believe in someone when they've stopped believing in themselves. What will your choice be? Thanks for watching. And remember, kindness is never wasted. It always comes back. It always matters. And it always creates ripples that spread farther than we can imagine. Until next time, stay kind, stay compassionate, and keep making a difference in whatever way you can. See you in the next story.